Hello and welcome to the Lebanon Public Library. My name is Emma and today we are going to be having our first ever adult story time. Adult Storytime is a program where we're going to read selections and make recommendations all around a specific theme. So we're getting cozy in front of the fireplace and we're going to talk about books for a little bit, my favorite subject. So today, as it is pouring rain outside, we're going to talk about how the natural world and the rhythms of it influence our lives. So my first selection for you today is World of Wonder, a beautiful book on our new nonfiction shelf by Amy Nazika-Matatiel. It is gorgeous essays about the natural world and about her identity. And the first essay that I'm going to read to you is titled The Corpse Flower. I'm going to show you the picture just like any story time because this book also has beautiful illustrations. And let's see what she has to say. When I was single, the corpse flower was a way to help clear out the sleaze, the unsavory, the unpleasant, the weeds of the dating world. On a dinner date, when a guy across from me asked something like, "So, what are some of your interests?" I'd tell him about these giant flowers with a seriously foul smell, and how I'd track them down all over the country as they were just about to bloom. Based upon his reaction, I could tell immediately whether there'd be a second date, or if I'd be ghosting him soon. The corpse flower has the largest inflorescence in the world, with its total height averaging 8 to 10 feet tall. It only grows in the wild in Indonesia, but several botanical gardens in the United States have had much success in growing them indoors. In 1937, the New York Botanical Garden was the first in the country to successfully display one in full bloom. My own first encounter with the corpse flower occurred at the University of Washington's beautiful campus greenhouse in 2001. I remember being so pleased that the line of people to see the flower was longer than the line to buy Dave Matthews Band tickets in town. It was the heady days of late June, and the greenhouse temperatures were already pushing into the high 80s, but that didn't deter the hundreds who waited for over an hour to get a big whiff of that memorable smell. The smell is basically what I imagine emanates from the bottom of a used diaper, pale left out in the late August sun after someone has emptied a tin of sardines and a bottle of blue cheese salad dressing on the top of it and left it there to sit for a day or three. But that smell and the deep, meaty red of the spathe is what attracts insects to pollinate the flower before it goes dormant for several years, folding back up into itself. A few years ago, my husband and I took our boys to the Buffalo Botanical Gardens to see if we could catch a glimpse of Morty, the corpse flower who was set to be in bloom any day. As any outing with two boys under 6, the visit ended up taking hours. After the touch-me-not plants, the Venus flytraps, the oversized checkerboard, and the dinosaur topiaries, the boys found the cactus room and all of its wild and deliciously dangerous offerings. Most of them, of course, eye level to a child. Before we knew it, the line to see Morty had already ran twice around the lobby. His appearance, after all, drew the biggest crowd in the garden's 115-year history. But the long line was worth it, as my boys' awe and squeals of disgust would attest. The spathe, or the skirt of the corpse flower, is the richest red and maroon. From a distance, its frills look like a plush velvet, an extravagant upside-down winter ball gown. But this gown isn't velvet at all. Rather, it's waxy to the touch. In its center, the chartreuse spadix rises to the sky at recorded heights of over 12 feet. When the two rings of citrus-colored flowers fully bloom and the giant meat skirt of the inflorescence unfolds, the spadix's temperature approaches that of a healthy human body, one of the only times this happens in the plant world. And that famous smell, oh, the smell, becomes a fragrant invitation to nocturnal insects like carrion beetles. Some of the names of the corpse flowers cultivated in captivity over the last few years, in addition to Buffalo's Morty: Pew Trisha, Wee Stinky, Audrey, Octavia, Rosie, Little Dougie, Tara, Cronus, Metis, Archie, Betty, Clive, Titania, Jessie, 007, Maudlin, the Velvet Queen, Maximus, Chanel, Perry, Little John, New Riki, Aaron, Odie, Gang 10, Sprout, Wally, Morticia, and the amazing Stinko. I can't get over the plant's temperature. When you touch the spadix of a corpse flower, it feels almost human, full of blood, and you might expect to feel your hand pulse at its heartbeat. Just last week, I read how trees speak to each other underground, how they let out warnings of toxins and deforestation. Trees have been known to form alliances and friendships through fungal networks. All of these findings are still new, but I'm in love with the idea that plants have a temperature, that they can run warm and cold when they need to, and that they can send signals to species who help them, not harm them. And what a magnificent telegraph we might send back, especially if other humans had ever made you feel alone on this earth. After that first visit in Wisconsin, I spent 3 years tracking blooming corpse flowers all over that world, and in that time, only one man out of dozens, one, didn't blanch at my description of this incredible plant or disparage my enthusiasm. Only one man didn't wince when I said the word inflorescence. In fact, this man wanted to know more. He wanted to see a corpse flower for himself. He didn't seem fazed when I reminded him of the odor. I couldn't believe my luck when, a few months later, over what had become our near weekly dinner date, this handsome, green-eyed man put his fork down and said he wanted to go on a road trip with me the next time a corpse flower bloomed, that it didn't matter where it was. I knew he wasn't joking when he said he'd go anywhere with me and that he meant it. I'd met my match. Laughing eyes. My mom once observed after she first met him, to describe how his eyes shine at everything, how this man had a knack for making everyone around him feel pretty darn magnificent. You know, it's very good for a man to have laughing eyes. But at that moment, his eyes weren't laughing across the restaurant table from me. His serious face told me, through all the electric and fragrant greens, the sprays and shines and the wild bursts of flute, the messy, blood-red days and the stench and stink too, this finally was a man who'd never flinch, never leave my side when things were messy, or if he was introduced to something new, this was a man who would be happy when I bloomed. 7 months later, on the cusp of strawberry season, our friends threw coral-colored rose petals over us as we exited the church, husband and wife. This was the short selection, The Corpse Flower, from World of Wonder. It's a lot about the natural world, but also about finding people who support you and love you as you are. Another book that talks about this theme is Leave Only Footprints by Connor Knighton. He goes out into the world to visit every single national park in the United States, and he does it as the result of a kind of unfortunate breakup early on in the book. Throughout his quest to visit all the national parks, he ruminates on the nature of love, both with his romantic partners and with his family. He meets other people, he meets other romantic partners, and he thinks about what his life really is and what the rhythms of the natural world have to teach him about that life. So if you enjoyed that short story from World of Wonders, another suggestion is Leave Only Footprints by Connor Knighton.